The movie begins in a restaurant where a couple named Pumpkin and Honey Bunny are sitting and discussing how to rob an alcoholic shop. Pumpkin tells his wife that he wants to quit the life of oppression, and she makes fun of him. In the meantime, they plan to rob the restaurant as they see no guards around. Both take out their guns and aim at the people sitting next to them. In the following scene, two shooters named Vincent Vega and Jules Winnfield are talking about a girl named Uma Wallace, the wife of Marsellus Wallace, a crime boss. Jules narrates the story of Tony and how mercilessly Marsellus killed Tony, who was massaging Mia. Before they enter an apartment, Jules pulls Vincent aside and tells him that he must not make any mistakes. Because Marsellus is leaving town for the night and Vincent must accompany or take his wife Uma Wallace out to dinner that night. Their actual mission behind coming to Marsellus' house is to find out which boys have planned to steal Marsellus' gold. As they open the main door of the apartment and enter, they confront three boys who have tried to deceive Marsellus. Jules introduces himself to one of the boys named Brett and reads him some Bible verses. Jules asks him about the suitcase, which is full of gold. Meanwhile, Vega finds the suitcase, and Jules shoots Brett and his friend dead. In the next scene, Jules and Vega go to Marsellus to give him his suitcase full of gold. When they enter his residency, they see him talking to a boxer named Butch. Marsellus is telling Butch to lose the fight, and he will give him a good amount of money in return. Reluctantly, he agrees with Marsellus that he will knock himself out in the 5th round, and he strikes the deal. Vega and Butch are introduced to each other, albeit in a heated conversation. Following that, we see Vega ask his friend Lance to take a drug from him so he can enjoy dinner with Mia. Lance shows him 3 types of drugs with varying prices and offers him a dose, which he eats and goes out to meet Mia. He arrives at Mia's house, and she tells him to wait and have a drink while she goes inside to take a dose of cocaine. Both go out for dinner in a car to a bar, where the environment is fully set up for couples with self-soothing music. They sit at a table built into a static car and place their orders. Vega offers her tobacco, which is a cigarette, and she goes to the washroom to take a dose of cocaine. After she returns, he asks her why Marsellus killed Tony. She says she knows nothing about Tony except for the time she met him at her wedding. While they are having their dinner, someone in the restaurant announces a dancing competition, and both Mia and Vega take part in it. After they win the competition, they are awarded a trophy. After that, both return home along with the trophy. Mia seems over the moon, and she puts on music, whereas Vega is a little nervous and is attending the washroom. Mia takes some heroin from Vega's coat and takes a dose of it while he is in the restroom, assuming it is cocaine. As she eats it, her nose starts bleeding, and she faints immediately. When Vega notices her fainting on the floor, he rushes her to his friend Lance's house. He also informs Lance about the situation, but Lance tells him not to bring her to his home. Lance appears hesitant to allow Mia into his home at first, but when Vega informs him that she is the wife of Marsellus, a crime boss, he agrees. Lance administers an injection in her chest, which brings her back to her senses. After that, Vega drops Mia off at her house and tells her not to tell Marsellus about the incident as she walks towards her house. She promises him that she will say nothing to her husband because if she does, she will be in big trouble. In the next scene, the movie flashes back to Butch's childhood, where Captain Coons, his father's friend, calls on him in his home and gives him a watch, which is Butch's father's watch. He shows Butch a watch that his grandfather had purchased during the First World War. He then gifted the watch to his son, who participated in World War II. Before Butch's grandfather died of cancer, it was given to his uncle, who is now a captain in the military. Captains also keep the watch hidden under their dresses, and now he has brought the watch to Butch. The watch is a special one for Butch, as it has been passed down from generation to generation. The movie returns to the present, where we see Butch, who is about to enter the fighting ring. According to the deal that he signed with Marsellus, he has to lose the fight, but surprisingly, he defeats his opponent and wins the fight. He also kills the fighter during the fight, making Marsellus his enemy. To save himself, he flees from there and hires a taxi, which a Colombian girl drives. A little later, he asks the girl to stop the taxi and makes a phone call to the owner of the fighting club, who has promised him a huge amount of money if he wins the fight. Now that he has won the fight, he asks for the money. On the other hand, we see Marsellus, who is looking at the dead body of a boxer whom Butch has killed, and he says he will find Butch no matter where he hides in the world. He then reaches his home, where he makes out with her. After they leave the apartment, Butch learns that his girlfriend has left his gold watch in the house, and he gets angry with her. He starts breaking things in the room, and a little later he cools down by saying it was a mistake because he should have told her the importance of the watch. He then plans to go back and take his watch, which is a completely dangerous task, and he can lose his life. As he returns home to take the golden watch, to his surprise, he finds a gun on the kitchen shelf, and he also hears water in the toilet. He takes the gun and silently walks towards the toilet. As the door of the toilet opens, Vega comes out, and Butch recognizes him instantly. Butch shoots Vega dead because he knows Vega works for Marsellus, and he presumes Marsellus must have sent him to his apartment to kill him. Butch then takes his golden watch and drives along with his girlfriend. While on their way to the airport to fly out of the country, they come across Marsellus, who notices them. As Butch runs his car over Marsellus, his car gets out of control and hits another car, injuring both Butch and his girlfriend. Half-conscious, Butch sees Marsellus coming towards him to kill him. Butch flees when he sees him and enters a hardware store. Marsellus also enters the shop, and both he and Butch fight each other. Before Butch has almost shot Marsellus dead, the shopkeeper takes his gun and asks him to surrender. The shopkeeper hits Butch, who faints and takes them to the basement of his shop. There is another man whose face is covered with a black cloth in the basement of the shop, and he works for the shop owner. The shop owner calls his friend, and they take Marsellus to another adjacent room to rape him. Finding an opportunity, Butch attacks the face-covered man and tries to flee from there. No sooner has he crossed the limit of the shop than he overhears the cries of Marsellus, and he decides to save Marsellus from the shop owner and his friend. He searches for a weapon in the shop and looks at a hanging sword. He takes the sword and breaks into the basement. While he stabs the shop owner dead, Marsellus takes the gun and kills the shop owner's friend, who is heading toward him. Marsellus agrees to end their enmity if Butch does not tell anyone about the incident and leaves the town as soon as possible. Butch agrees, and they both flee from there. Butch then hurries towards his girlfriend, who is staying at a restaurant, and after that, he rides on a heavy bike with his girlfriend. The movie now goes back to an earlier scene when Jules and Vincent go to Marsellus' home, where they kill 2 of the 3 boys and one of them hides in the toilet. The boy comes out of the toilet and opens fire on them, but they successfully evade the fire and instead kill the boy. Jules becomes nervous as he has narrowly escaped his death, and he decides to quit the life of crime. They take Marvin to a car, and while they are traveling in the car, Vega mistakenly shoots Marvin, and he dies. The car has the look of a blood pool, and to hide the murder and evidence, they drive to Jimmy's house, where he tells them they should leave before his wife comes home. Jimmy fears if his wife learns her husband is involved in criminal activities, she will divorce him. Vega and Jules make a phone call to Marsellus and ask for help. Marsellus sends a man named Winston Wolfe to Jimmy's house, and he asks them to throw the bloodstained clothes. Wolfe tells Jimmy to take out his linen clothes and blankets, but Jimmy refuses because he got them through his marriage. Wolfe gives Jimmy some money and takes the clothes from him. Jules and Vincent start cleaning the car, and after that, they wear Jimmy's dresses. Wolfe takes them to a place where cars and trucks are dismantled, and after the car is dismantled, they thank Wolfe, and they drive away from there. Now Jules and Vega go to the restaurant that we saw at the start of the movie. While Jules is telling him about his decision to leave the world of crime, Vega stands up to go to the washroom. When Vega is inside, a couple who are robbing the customers in the restaurant aim at Jules, and they ask him to open the briefcase. Seeing the briefcase full of gold, Pumpkin gets shocked. And while he is taking the gold out of it, Jules snatches the gun from him and aims at him instead. Honey Bunny sees her husband in a dangerous situation, so she aims his gun at Jules. When Vega emerges from the restroom, he points his gun at Honey Bunny. At the end of the movie, Jules gives $1,500 to Pumpkin and tells him to run away.